Hey, what's up guys? You got Crave here, and right now I am still choosing my classes for the Legion expansion. And given the introduction of artifact weapons and the amount of time that it will take to actually fully upgrade the artifact weapons into the new expansion, I think I'd have to make some solid choice early on. Now, if ever I do want to tank in Legion, I figured I couldn't do what I did in Warlords of Draenor or as fast as what I did in Draenor. I mean, of course, you can always choose later on and level another character later on, but what about the now, given the state or how artifact weapons are going to be? Now, even for casual raiding, you'd still want to level something you feel comfortable with or you think is cool or is, of course, effective in the role. And in terms of tanking, right now, I've narrowed down my choices to either a Prot Warrior or the new kid on the block, which is the Vengeance Demon Hunter. And this video is going to be about that. It's about sharing my thoughts or ideas on why one tanking class might be better than the other. So it's basically sharing the pros and cons of each spec. So it gives you some of the idea of how you may want to go about each type of tank you want. Of course, only limited to the Vengeance Demon Hunter and the Protection Warrior. So with that, let's first start with the Protection Warrior. Prot Warrior, or the Prot Warrior spec, is one of my first two choices in tanking. Paladin actually came in first when I learned about World of Warcraft when my friend had me try it out. But after trying the Prot Warrior, I never really looked back in picking the Warrior first. I mean, I do tank, or I used to tank in other classes, but if the question came to my mind, it would automatically be the Prot Warrior, Prot Warrior, Prot Warrior. Now in Legion, the tankiness of the Prot Warrior is still the same. The spec is like one big sturdy rock that you just can't shake. I mean, the damage intake is still smooth unless it's big damage that you take in, or unless you experience technical difficulties, which might cause a late button press, things of the sort. Now, shield block is still amazing as it really reduces physical damage taken. But right now, and I guess it's pretty much discussed a whole lot, is the most impressive ability, which is Ignore Pain. The Absorb ability is a drastic improvement over the previous incarnation, which is a Shield Barrier. Now, it's possible with Ignore Pain to simply stack the shield value, like build it to really high amounts, and be able to mitigate really big damage. Now, from testing, the ability appears to cap out based on your health. So the higher amount of health you have, it can lead to some really ridiculous amount of shield absorb. Now, combining Ignore Pain and Shield Block makes the warrior a very steady and sturdy meat shield. Now, there's no doubt that healers suffer no heart attack from you unless you're lagging or you miss a button press, as I mentioned earlier. Now, checking the artifact trait also really makes you a sturdier tank. You see a whole bunch of abilities there that really help you mitigate damage, and I always liked damage mitigation. Now, unfortunately, this about sums it up for the warrior defense. I mean, sure, you have CDs like Demo Shout, you've got Shield Wall and Last Stand, but it's strange, but playing a Legion warrior is not as exciting as a warrior in Warlords of Draenor. There's something about it that makes it feel a bit boring, unlike I guess unlike previous iterations. It could be the reliance on Ignore Pain for a majority of the time, or that our rage regen just isn't the same as before. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not terrible gameplay that it puts you to sleep. It's just that it feels less intense and engaging as before. Now, of course, the warrior's mobility is still there. You even have an artifact trait that decreases heroic leaps cooldown, and that makes the gameplay exciting to sort of counter that boring element in the whole tanking style. And which is why going into Legion, you may want to stack haste as a priority to reduce the cooldown of your abilities to reduce downtime, just to increase to a very small amount to increase the engagement. But stacking haste will also help you to access your abilities, which help you to survive. So for the Prot Warrior, overall I am seeing a very sturdy tank, which is reliable in damage-heavy encounters, capable of handling multiple mobs, has a very useful amount of CDs, which really helps you to survive big damage, but somehow has less of the engagement factor as it did before. Now, well, this would really be my my outright pick, were it not for the engagement factor issue. But let's take a look at my other option, which is the Demon Hunter. So the Demon Hunter is the new kid on the block. So if you have to picture it, imagine a rogue infused with fell magic, and this is what you get: the Vengeance Demon Hunter. Now, while the class doesn't lug around a big shield or wear heavy armor, the zippiness of it, its quick movements, and the fell infused tats you get on your body help you to go face to face against bosses. Now, it's really hard. Well, it's not that hard, but I wouldn't really pin down a demon hunter into one type. But the standout method of surviving for vengeance is through healing via soul cleave. Now, it's a heal up method for surviving akin to blood decays, and it's not a bad thing. But the thing I like about warriors, and I mentioned this earlier, and maybe even paladins to an extent, is the mitigating aspect of how they survive encounters. So I think I mentioned this in my previous guides. I think for warriors and maybe my disc priest guide that mitigation has always been better than healing up damage taken. That's mainly because healers don't suffer heart attacks, and you don't if you're the tank. But if you can time it properly, just like a blood decay, then you'll find it easy to heal up big damage, especially when you've got a stacked soul cleave for your Vengeance Hunter. And now the spec also has some useful CDs like Demon Spikes, which works off a short CD. That Demon Spike gives you additional parry chance and physical damage mitigation. It also, the class or the spec also has a magic damage reduction ability, which works on a short CD. And it also has a 1-minute CD ability that reduces overall damage taken for a short time from one target. And it also has this very long CD, which is Metamorphosis. It's a long CD health boost, so it's kind of like Last Stand. Now, in terms of the other things that Vengeance Demon Hunters can do is that they provide very good utility with some abilities like the Sigil system. So that Sigil system, which is placeable in in nearly any location from a very good radius, is that the Sigil can silence, can stun, or deal a very good amount of AoE fire damage. Now, in terms of mobility, if you think the warriors were mobile or very quick in encounters, nothing can equal the Vengeance Demon Hunter as they jump around and, it's the double jump and those things. Yeah, Demon Hunters are basically just the best when it comes to mobility in raids or in dungeons. While Demon Hunters at the moment are lacking some talents, mainly because you need to max them out to 110 to fully realize the abilities of the class. Right now, from just studying, playing the spec and studying the talents, you can immediately say that Demon Hunter Burst Healing is amazing. And coupled with the short CDs, the utility it has, the amazing mobility, it makes it a great tanking class. But again, it will only be fully realized once you reach 110. Now, in terms of mitigation, it really just, let's just admit it, it really just pales in comparison to a warrior's mitigation ability. But that's mainly due to a difference in the tanking style. So it's like comparing a warrior to a DK. Now, there are some traits in the right portion of the Vengeance Demon Hunter's artifact tree that allows for some additional mitigation. Yeah, it can help with the mitigation aspect, but again, it's not that big of a boost. So, to sum it up, a Demon Hunter's tanking style is really just what's holding me back. Before, if you had to ask me if I had to choose between a warrior and a blood DK for tanking, in terms of what I feel comfortable with, I mean, they're both effective. It's just that in terms of, being comfortable with it, I would always choose a warrior, not that a blood DK would lag so far behind. So again, with the Vengeance Demon Hunter, it's the same thing. It's the tanking style. I would normally pick anything that can mitigate huge amounts of damage or allow the intake of smoother damage intake over any of the class. But somehow Demon Hunter, the utility and the mobility is just really amazing. It's hard to ignore it. So that's why I consider it, but at the same time, that one aspect is holding me back. And those are my thoughts on the two tanking classes. I mean, both of their off-spec DPS trees aren't so bad, so I'm fine with either. I was just sharing my thoughts on the choices I have to make before Legion launches. I mean, if I don't pick the other, I'll probably level it as the expansion rolls along. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it useful or insightful or just okay to listen to. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon.